From a massive cruise ship striking a rock in shallow waters and capsizing for the world to witness, to a fire on board a ship off the coast of New Jersey that forced hundreds of passengers to leap into the sea, here are 5 of the most costly cruise ship disasters in history. The Carnival Splendor, operated by Carnival Cruise Line, encountered serious trouble on November 8, 2010, during the second day of its voyage from Long Beach to the Mexican Riviera. A catastrophic failure occurred when one of the diesel generators ignited a fire in the engine room. Definitely not the best place for a fire to break out. The blaze quickly spread to the electrical cables, causing a total power loss across the ship. In the days of sail, losing power might not have been a big deal, but for modern cruise ships, it's a major problem. Although the fire was extinguished without injury, the damage had been done. The ship, carrying 4,500 people, was left stranded at sea. With no electricity, there was no way to restore engine power, and the ship had to be towed back to California by a tugboat. Without power for air conditioning or refrigeration, the passengers were fed through other means. The Navy even landed helicopters on the ship to deliver rations, which is a pretty clear sign that your cruise isn't going well. All passengers were refunded for their tickets and travel expenses and received vouchers for a free cruise. One can only wonder how many actually took up the offer after their previous experience. The entire incident reportedly cost Carnival $100 million. But fires are not the only potential danger for cruise ships. On January 13, 2012, the Italian cruise ship Costa Concordia learned that there are far more expensive ways to damage your boat out on the ocean. During a planned 7-day cruise, the captain decided to take the ship a bit off course to sail closer to the island of Giglio. This turned out to be a fatal mistake. The ship ended up hitting an underwater rock that caused it to capsize and partially sink right off the coast. There was an intensive 6-hour rescue that brought nearly everyone ashore, but 33 people did end up dying in this tragic incident. So how does such a catastrophic failure happen despite all the technology that ships have now? Well, an investigation blamed the crew, particularly the captain, Francesco Schettino, for steering off course. He also left the ship at the first sign of danger, abandoning everyone else on board. He was later found guilty of manslaughter and was sentenced to 16 years in prison. Costa Cruises and their parent company Carnival did not face any criminal charges themselves. The ship was declared to be a constructive total loss by the cruise line's insurance company. The subsequent salvaging was one of the biggest maritime salvage operations in history. Costa Concordia was refloated by welding flotation tanks to its sides. Then it was towed 200 miles back to its home port of Genoa so it could be scrapped. The whole process took 5 years. The total cost of the deadly disaster, including compensation for the victims, refloating, towing, salvaging, and scrapping, is estimated to have cost approximately $2 billion. Carnival Sunrise, formerly known as Carnival Triumph, has had some less than triumphant moments in its history. In 2013, the cruise ship had a fire in the aft engine room. It was put out automatically by the fire extinguisher system, and nobody was injured, but just like with the Splendor a few years prior, all power was lost. To make things even worse, raw sewage began to back up on the passenger deck areas. Not only did this smell incredibly bad, but it was a pretty big health hazard. It also caused the media to name this whole event the poop cruise. It's things like this that make you question the saying, no such thing as bad press. Tugboats were originally going to tow the ship to the Mexican port of Progreso, but ocean currents carried Carnival Sunrise so far north that she ended up docking in Alabama instead. After this, Carnival realized that they had an engine fire problem that they needed to fix. They announced a huge, sweeping fleet-wide review of all of their ships. They put in backup generators on every ship, something which maybe should have already been there. A huge string of voyages had to be canceled while they did this. And this wasn't even the end of the ship's problems. While it was docked in Alabama getting repaired, unusually strong winds caused it to break free from her moorings and hit another ship. It collided with the United States Army Corps of Engineers vessel Dredgewheeler. This created a 20-foot gash on the stern. The wind also caused a guard shack on the dock to collapse. One of the people inside the guard shack sadly lost their life in this incident, while the other was able to be rescued. All of this and more caused the repairs of the ship to be delayed even further. In the end, the entire disaster cost Carnival $80 million. The MTS Oceanos, a French-built cruise ship, had a long sailing history before its tragic final voyage in 1991. Captain Yanis Avranas, a seasoned seaman with 30 years of experience, was in charge, which initially seemed reassuring. However, the Oceanos encountered a severe storm that made conditions on board so rough that even the waiters couldn't serve food. As the night wore on, the storm intensified, and freak waves battered the ship, causing it to take on water. The situation worsened when the ship lost power, and the engine room flooded, leaving the Oceanos adrift and vulnerable. Shockingly, no alarms or announcements were made to alert the passengers. Eventually, some curious passengers went up to the bridge, only to find it completely abandoned. One of the onboard entertainers used the radio to send out a distress call, which was eventually answered. Rescue helicopters and lifeboats were dispatched, and all passengers were safely rescued. Interestingly, there is a website dedicated to this event, oceanosinking.com, created by Moss Hills, one of the entertainers who played a key role in the rescue. The reason he maintains the site, which includes detailed accounts of the sinking, remains unclear. The SS Morro Castle was a luxurious ocean liner built in 1930. The ship was known for its popularity even during the Great Depression. On the night of September 5, 1934, things took a turn for the worse when the ship caught fire and ran aground while traveling from Cuba to New York. 137 passengers and crew members died in this tragedy. The day before the disaster, the captain suddenly and unexpectedly died for unrelated reasons. It seems as though the ship was cursed from this point on. Around 2:50 a.m., a fire was detected in the storage locker. The fire quickly spread and engulfed the entire ship. For whatever reason, rescue from the Coast Guard was slow to arrive. Passengers and crew members soon found themselves in a situation where the deck was almost too hot to stand on, and the smoke made breathing difficult. They either had to brave those conditions or jump overboard. The issue with that was the water was incredibly choppy, and swimming was near impossible. Of the 12 lifeboats on board the ship, only 6 were launched. It is unknown why the others were not used, as there was enough room for everybody to use them. Eventually, rescue boats did arrive, and they managed to save the majority of people on board. The burnout shell of the SS Morro Castle eventually ran aground off Asbury Park, New Jersey. Despite a lengthy investigation into the cause of the fire, one was never determined. The ship was declared a total loss. The estimated cost for this disaster was over $4 million back in 1934. The Titanic is undoubtedly the most famous cruise ship disaster in history. Unlike other ships, the Titanic stands out for its unique place in history. When it was built, it was the largest ship in the world, requiring 600 tons of coal daily to operate and a crew of 176 people just to keep the coal fires burning. On April 15, 1912, it struck an iceberg and began sinking, taking over 2 hours before finally disappearing beneath the ocean. Most of those on board perished, either from the sinking itself or the freezing waters. Ironically, a lifeboat drill was scheduled for the same day the Titanic hit the iceberg, but it was mysteriously canceled. Many believe that if the drill had taken place, more lives might have been saved. These tragedies have taught us valuable lessons in shipbuilding and safety, helping us to avoid repeating the same mistakes. Hopefully, there won't be any more major disasters at sea in our lifetime. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the link on screen now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.